All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our August webinar with the Kentucky Advising Academy, which is an initiative of the Kentucky Council on Post-Secondary Education. We're so thrilled that you all decided to join us today and hope that you get some energy from the information that you hear. My name is Destiny O'Rourke, and I'm the director of the Kentucky Advising Academy. And I'm joined today by a few members of our team who you'll get a chance to meet in the chat in just a few minutes here. We also have some guest presenters who I'm so thankful for and excited that you all get a chance to hear from. We have Pam Bauman, who's the interim dean of admission and financial aid at Centre College, and Matthew Quarles, who is the senior admissions counselor at Berea College. And so they'll provide some excellent expertise on supplemental materials. And again, we're just so thankful that they took time out to be with us today. I know that everyone is so busy with school getting started and students getting back. So we're just glad that you took some time to be here. I'll turn it over to them in just a few minutes, but first, I would love to get a chance to know you. So if you don't mind, take just a moment and make sure that your name shows up on your screen. You can do that by clicking on participants and then clicking on the three dots beside your name. And that'll give you an opportunity to rename it if you need to do that. Also, take a moment to just introduce yourselves in the chat. And so we want to have your name, your organization, and your title, and just for fun, let us know if you are an early bird or a night owl. I, for one, am completely an early bird. All this energy you see right here, completely gone by 7:30 p.m., friends. So take just a moment, let us know about you. Lots of night owls here. Oh, neither. That is awesome. What a variety, friends. Thank you. So please feel free to continue doing that. If you're just hopping in, we're just putting in the chat our names, organizations, title, and whether or not you're an early bird or a night owl. So again, we know you have a million plates spinning with the school year kicking back up again. So we appreciate you for making time to be with us. I want you to know that ELA credit will be available for our webinar for those who are here in it. And I'll give you details about that at the end of our time together. So I was thrilled to see that we have a lot of post-secondary partners who registered. So for our post-secondary partners, I especially am excited for you to contribute in our breakout sessions. I think there's just a great opportunity to connect. So just really having a chance for secondary and post-secondary practitioners to hear from each other on these topics is crucial. So just thank you for taking time to be here. Okay, so I want to give you an overview of our agenda here. So we're going to start with a brief overview of the Kentucky Advising Academy if this is your first time engaging with us. And then I'll turn it over to our guest presenters who will give you information about supplemental materials. And then after that, we'll take a short breakout session. We'll have a short breakout session where you can all share some promising practices with each other, and we'll have some time to share out. And then finally, we'll go over some ways to stay connected as well as inform you on how to access your ELA credit opportunity. So I'll start by sharing the purpose of the Kentucky Advising Academy. Such an exciting, initiative here. So you'll see the purpose of the Academy here on the slide. And really, we exist to provide support to school counselors and really all professional educators who find themselves in a post-secondary advising role. So this could be teachers, coaches, club sponsors, FRISC coordinators, community partners. It's important for us to expand the idea of who counts as a post-secondary advisor. We know that not one person can do it all. And so we want to make sure that we all work together when we're helping students navigate this vital process of transitioning into their next step. So we develop professional learning and pull together resources in order to help build knowledge, capacity, and community around the post-secondary advising process. So we were born out of a committee recommendation from the Commonwealth Education Continuum. I'll refer to them as the CEC. So the CEC is a joint initiative between Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman, Education Commissioner Dr. Jason Glass, and our very own Council on Post-Secondary Education President, Dr. Aaron Thompson. They put together really just this all-star group of state level stakeholders who represent P20 and on throughout the workforce. And what they do is they identify leaks in the pipeline, the transition pipelines. So ultimately what they're doing is taking actionable steps to plug those leaks and help Kentuckians navigate transitions more smoothly so that overall quality of life is improved. As for CPE, our strategic agenda, North Star, if you will, is 60 by 30. And what that means is we want to increase the number of Kentuckians who have a post-secondary credential by 60% by the year 2030. And that includes all types of post-secondary options. So one of our CEC subcommittees really recognized the need to support school counselors and other educators with post-secondary advising. And that's where the Kentucky Advising Academy was born. So we want to make sure that you know about our different services. And so we want those services really to help our audience build, again, knowledge, capacity, community. And so to accomplish that, we have multiple ways for practitioners to choose to be involved. And so monthly, we offer Well Advised, which is a brief podcast that covers all kinds of timely post-secondary advising topics, such as college admissions and financial aid and scholarships and more. And then we also offer, of course, this monthly webinar, which is great. And the webinar topic is tied to the podcast topic. And that's intentional because it gives practitioners a chance to convene and gather ideas from each other around the topic. So you can hear the podcast, you can decide, yeah, I want to hear a little bit more about that. And you can come to the webinar and hear some more, but also engage with others around the Commonwealth. So we hope that this is a real added value to you. And then quarterly, we offer a newsletter that has post-secondary advising information, not only from us, but from our many partner organizations. Kentucky is filled with fantastic resources around advising. And so, our goal is to pull as many of those resources together and deliver it to you without you having to go to a million places. So we also host these full day regionally based in-person professional learning events. And that's going to start this fall at a cooperative near you. So I'll give registration details on that in a little bit at the end of our time together today. And then finally, we are in the midst of building a comprehensive online advising toolkit. So that will be sent out to you for sure as we get more information on the toolkit as well. You can see all of this information on our KAA website, which is here on the screen at cpe.ky.gov/advisingky. Also, we are very fortunate to have some regional advising coordinators who help us execute this structure. So you can see them here on the screen and the territories that they represent. They've been a joy, just a real joy to have. And I'm excited for the work that we'll all do together and be able to provide for you all. So we would love to have you join us in all of these opportunities. So I'll give you more information on how to stay connected at the end. Okay, so now we are going to focus on supplemental materials. Today's webinar is brought to you in partnership with the Association of Independent Kentucky Colleges and Universities, ICU for short. ICU includes 18 independent colleges and universities located throughout the Commonwealth. ICU members are a diverse group of institutions with distinct missions and a wide variety of academic program offerings, but they all share a commitment to affordability, opportunity, and student success. Our guest presenters are part of that ICU system and represent a vast amount of knowledge and experience. And so at this time, I will turn it over to them to introduce themselves and share some great information.
Great. Good morning. Thank you so much, Destiny. So my name's Pam Boffman, and I have the pleasure of serving as the interim dean of admission and financial aid at Center, where I have worked for 30 years and spent 4 years as a student. So I know Center well, and I'm excited to be with you this morning. So what are supplemental materials and how do they complement a college application? Supplemental materials allow colleges and universities to better understand the essence of a student and what motivates them. There's so much more to a student than just their GPA and/or test scores, and this is where a paper application can really come alive. So some items that we'd love to see included would be first, a resume. A resume can provide a sense of what is important to the student and how they dedicate their time to their families, their school family, and their larger community. You can remind students that commitments such as part-time work and domestic duties like caring for younger siblings or a family member are equally as important as joining a club or an organization at school. And resume involvements don't have to match the offerings of a particular college. We want to know how students are spending their time. Also, we're not looking for a long list of memberships. If a student is a member of every club at the school, they're most likely not a very good and involved member because hours in the day are limited. So our hope is to really get a sense of what is near and dear to a student's heart. While not all colleges offer a chance for a student to connect with a college representative, it can be really helpful if given the chance to talk with an admission counselor or an alumni representative. Some schools will offer admission conversations and/or interviews during campus visits, and they'll be pretty easy to schedule or request. Another option may be to connect with an admission counselor during their travels. Some students are really surprised to learn that many colleges and universities send their admission team far and wide. Alumni interviewers will often be local alums who live in their area, and that might be an option as well. And I caution, though, that some alum interviewers may not know every current detail about the institution because their experience is rooted in their college career. So if a student does engage with an alumni interviewer, I highly recommend that they also reach out to an admission representative to make sure they know everything they need to know about all of the processes in place. Letters of recommendation can be really helpful as colleges glean more information about the ways in which a student contributes to the academic and social culture of a school. We can get an idea of a student's strengths, and at times we learn how a student deals with challenges or complex issues. This is one of the places where we discern a student's grit, and who better to provide that insight than a counselor or a teacher who has consistently observed a student's growth and development. Also, others such as coaches, advisors, work supervisors, youth group directors, and other unlimited people may have a unique perspective to share. Many colleges will welcome additional letters beyond that of the counselor and the teacher. However, I would not recommend submitting more than 4. At that point, we see a lot of repetition, but we certainly do welcome the observations of those who know the students well. Creative samples are really helpful too. We love to learn about a highly developed talent that a student may possess, particularly when it comes to performing or visual arts. Don't just tell us, show us. Submit YouTube videos or creative slideshows of artistic pieces that showcase a student's talent. Acquiring a collection of creative samples may prove useful for a student who's pursuing special interest scholarships designed to reward talent in areas such as the arts. The essay. This is one area that I think students often underestimate, and I think it's really critical that those in the student's corner really emphasize the importance of an essay if it is either required or it's an option. The essay is one way for a student to distinguish themselves in their own words, and encouraging a student to write about a topic only they could write or a topic in which they can really add their own twist is a great move. As a standard in the high school setting, a reminder about proofing is key, not just spell check. A poorly written essay can send a less than positive message about the student's seriousness of their interest or the haste in which they completed their application. Also, remind them that college representatives are reading multiple applications and essays. Unless they can take a popular topic and make it uniquely personal, they may want to avoid general topics such as sports as a metaphor for life. Tell us something that we aren't picking up in other places on the application. An essay should be viewed as an opportunity to really share their voice and showcase their personality. A collection of all of these supplemental materials can really give us a nice holistic view of the student as an academic being, but also an individual, and we'll learn more about how they might contribute to our communities. Now, Matthew, I'm going to send it over to you.
Thank you, Pam. Hello, everybody. I'm Matthew Quarles, the Senior Admissions Counselor here at Berea. And when I just want to echo a little bit of what Pam was saying, especially when it comes with everybody asking me as a counselor, why are supplemental materials important throughout the admissions process? And whenever I hear supplemental materials and their importance, my thought automatically always goes to information. Just because, as you are finding for most processes, everybody is adopting some sort of reading process, whether it's a double read, whether it's an admissions counselor going in front of a committee. And I usually find that the information that a student provides through supplemental materials are important to help show the grit and fit of a student. That's actually a term that we use behind here at Berea. And when we actually talk about grit, we're thinking of the non-cognitive variables that can actually help us see that a student can actually persist and retain throughout the college experience. And that's one thing I've also talked with plenty of crews, not only here at Berea, but also in Kentucky, Tennessee, where I mainly run the rounds. And I'm finding that more and more colleges are starting to expand their gaze to not only look into admissions, but the actual enrollment practices and retention management and such like that when they're actually making some of their decision making. So I think it's really important to also have students turn in those materials to help schools and also counselors be able to stand on solid ground to be able to say, we think that these students have this grit, they have motivation, they have that persistence factor, they have that growth mindset, along with many other non-cognitive variables. Just because, again, we're going back to that idea of retention-based admissions along with just getting them into the class. Fit's always important, just because schools are also looking in to see not only does the student fit within the academics of the institution, but how do they fit within the community? Because at the end of the day, schools, we want to be able to meet students where they are and be able to create spaces for the student, not only to exist, but to thrive. And that's very important for us, especially as we are looking for students to help fill that class. And then when students are actually navigating the process, as Pam said beforehand, it's important for them to talk with counselors. As I tell my students and as I tell my counselors, as an admissions counselor, my job is literally to talk. That's what I get paid to do. I'm here to tell people not only, about Berea and what we do, but I'm also there to help act as an advocate for the student to help guide them not only through the admissions process, but also to help them when it actually comes time for the rubber to hit the road. And I'm actually bringing files in front of the committee to advocate on their behalf. And I think it's just really important as I am talking and working with students that I'm able to showcase aspects of the student's experience that speaks not only to Berea's mission, but also things that I think could help them just navigate the college experience. So I want to be able to provide information that if like a student's working a job through a resume, I want to be able to help showcase that they're able to balance both not only the stresses and the multitasking that's needed to keep up with supporting the family, but I also want to be able to show that they can handle their schoolwork too as they are going through that. When it comes with what we call behind the scenes here at Berea, the opportunity for students to help boost an application, especially when it comes with students turning in materials, we want to be able to, as I said beforehand, as a counselor, help provide that information. And when it comes with providing information that can help shift that decision making, I usually help point out when I'm talking with students, if they're talking their essay, I'm a first generation college student, this is the first time I've ever navigated that. That's really important to me, especially as somebody who's come from my educational background, to be able to help show that to committee and say, look what this student has done and look where this student can go. Also, supplemental information can help provide information when it comes with just navigating the COVID scene, because that's a really big thing that's affecting a lot of not only colleges, but high schools in general. So if a student finds that some aspects of their file might be a little bit on the, might need a little bit of extra explanation, like grades, because sometimes, as you all know, students don't do well on online education and with online instruction. And I think it's really important for students to be able to help showcase and say, I had a rough patch, but I'm doing well now, just because I've used this as a learning experience, and I've been able to help grow throughout my time here at the high school level and being able to navigate that. Another big thing that I'm also really thankful that some supplemental materials can help showcase is where students are overcoming adversity, whether that's with death in the families. I mean, sometimes I find that students are afraid to talk about that kind of stuff. They're saying, you know, I've navigated this kind of situation, and, you know, I might have taken a hit during that time, but I've been able to bounce back. Another thing that I don't think enough schools talk about when they are actually having students go through, especially once they get past the admissions process, but they start with the onboarding, is sometimes the schools that they are applying to, the counselors and the admissions offices can actually use the information that they have in their admissions files to actually help with the onboarding process, to help gather support mechanisms, to help navigate, to help that student navigate. It's really important, especially here at Berea, if we see something as counselors, especially if the student's offered admission, we think that they can be things in their files might help set up barriers for that student while they're here. We want to do everything that we can to remove those barriers. And so I'm especially appreciative of supplemental materials to actually help students and to help us as an institution. And I feel like other institutions do this too. I mean, it's not just a Berea-centric thing, where, you know, an admissions counselor or admissions in general might give a heads up to other entities within the campus to say, you know, this student might have had a hard time coming through high school. We think they might be best supported by attending like a first-year initiatives program, or maybe they might have to have extra conversations with financial aid. Which actually brings it into the next slide when it comes with, you know, if supplemental materials aren't necessarily required for admissions practices, should high school and counselors, you know, ask for that information to be done by students? Because we also understand as colleges that your all's time is valuable. You know, you all are being pulled in a multitude of different directions. And I think at the end of the day, supplemental materials are always helpful, not only to help through the admissions process, but to also help with financial aid. And also it's just a wonderful opportunity for students to get prepared for asking for recommendations down the line, also working on resumes too as well, just because there's going to be multiple inflection points throughout the student's post-secondary and professional life that will require those materials. As I tell counselors that I'm working with, and also students too, because students are like, do I always have to do, you know, a letter recommendation for, you know, each school specific? And I'll be the first one to say, as long as you spell the school's name correctly when you're changing everything, you know, you don't say that you love other schools in the letters recommendation, you're going to be fine. I am okay. And schools are also understanding that, you know, students are applying to 4, 5, 6 different schools as they're going through the process. And again, it's stressful to ask for letters recommendation for each specific institution. So it's completely fine, especially as you're applying for scholarships and such like that, because we all know that, you know, getting into school is easy. It's getting it paid for. That's often the whooping of it all. And we want to do everything that we can to help you all be able to tell your students that, you know, yes, it's okay to have a couple letters of recommendation. And especially now these days, since you're having the creation and the growth of SCORE, the Coalition app is now allowing for multiple essays to be stored in their systems along with the Common App. And we're okay as long as you're providing that information to us counselors and to the admissions processes, for you to have those extra, for you to encourage your students to have those extra letters of recommendation and get those kicked to us. And again, those materials, I can't hit on it enough how important some of those materials can be to help start conversations between admissions, the student, and the institution if they get to the point of enrollment, where we can say, we're noticing that you're saying some stuff in your file. How can we best support you based off of what we're hearing too as well?
Great. Thank you, Matthew. Such good advice and good context for sure. So what help do students need gathering and creating this collection of supplemental materials? Well, they do have a lot of people in their corner and they need to think about it more broadly. It's not just their counselor and their teachers. Those are really critical people. But as mentioned earlier, there are lots of school personnel and additional individuals who kind of pour into these students. So outside of the benefit of the college process, there's a real advantage to these students identifying people who have life experience that can help them navigate their high school setting, but also help them as they choose a post-secondary route. And when students take time to get to know their teachers and mentors and advisors, they learn that these individuals have wisdom to impart beyond their academic discipline or their area of responsibility. And developing a nice relationship can really lend itself to positive letters of recommendation and also endorsement for a variety of other opportunities that the students may not even realize exist at this point. So reminding students who are in the arts and humanities that they should begin a portfolio early in their high school career is a great move. No student really knows what path they will take when they begin high school. And much of this has to do with exposure, a sense of adventure, and sometimes it's one influential mentor that kind of helped them flip the switch. So encouraging students to maintain a collection of creative samples can be really useful and open doors for students as they settle on their pathway. Help identifying resources that can assist with the college essay writing endeavor is also, I think, a really good move. And as many of you know, a good number of high school English teachers will make this a priority. They will dedicate time in their classrooms to this, but that doesn't happen in every setting. So I encourage students to ask their guidance counselors for resources, maybe notice of any essay writing workshops or online sessions. I know there's some good resources online that are free for students from College Board and some other college platforms. But many colleges will also host workshops for high school students for free. So don't be shy about using college personnel to support your college preparatory efforts. I also encourage students to run their essays by a handful of individuals with different experiences and perspectives, especially if they are choosing to write about a controversial topic. The idea is to take kind of a test run to see if they are invoking the response that they had hoped. I welcome a student's voice in an essay as well as a sense of humor. Admission committees will be full of different readers. So if a student chooses to take this route, they may want to see if their essay is going to land the way that they had hoped. So dedicating some time to the essay is really important as well. It's not something that should be done the night before. Encouraging students to engage and participate in school activities, extracurriculars, involvements, I think is really important as well. Also being mindful that some students don't have the luxury to do those things because they might be helping with family finances. So we want to be mindful that students have their commitments and we want to encourage them in what makes sense for them and how they want to grow and develop. There's a lot to be gained in every endeavor. And so I think making sure students realize that that's part of their experience and they should share that is really important. I think the way they commit fitfully is important to colleges as well. And we understand the more time that they dedicate to one outlet will be less time they can dedicate to others. So when they share with us, we're interested in the time it takes and how they're really applying themselves and dedicating themselves. So the Common Application and the Coalition app will allow students to share those details with us. Encourage students to reach out early on to connect with schools of interest so it doesn't seem daunting. Yes, we get it. The college process can be really intimidating, especially when you're talking about scholarships and financial aid, and it can be very overwhelming. But college and university personnel love to interact with young people and learn about their stories. We find great reward in helping families navigate the world of admission scholarships and financial aid. And when students connect with an admission counselor and they're expressing their interest in a personal way, that allows that representative to respond in a way of personally guiding that student and making sure that student and family are getting the resources, the good counsel that they need so that the student can make a very well-informed and comfortable decision for themselves. So remember, the goal is for both the students and admission committees to have confidence in the match, because it's, as Matthew said, it's not just getting in, it's the persistence to stay in that environment, be very happy in that environment so that the student can really thrive and flourish. So working with students, families, and high school personnel remain the most enjoyable aspect of my work, and I feel confident that my professional colleagues, such as Matthew and others, would share this notion as well. So there's a role, I think, for lots of people to play in all of this in the way, like I said, in which we partner and we really support these students through the application process. Thank you.
Destiny, you're muted.
Oh, hey, friends. Thanks so much to our speakers. There's just some great nuggets of wisdom in there, and I really hope that you all were able to take away some things that helped you as you get ready for this new year. So what we're going to do now is we're going to spend some time in a breakout room. You've already been assigned to a room, so you don't have to worry about navigating that process. And just so you know, each room will have a facilitator. And so once you're in your room, you'll need to select someone to take notes. So there'll be a recorder who will take notes. And then you'll also need to select someone who will serve as a reporter, who will just speak out about what your group had conversation on. So you're gonna talk about all three of the questions that you see here. So you may start in different places depending on what you're gonna report on, because you are going to report on the question that corresponds with your room. So for example, if you're in breakout room 1, then even though you're going to talk about all of the questions, we'll call on breakout room 1 to talk out loud about question number 1. So your facilitator will help you guide you through that. At this time, we are going to go ahead and split up into our breakout rooms. Looks like folks are making their way back. Welcome back. Just a few more out here. All right, so those breakout rooms close officially in about 15 seconds. So we'll give those folks a chance to make their way back to our room. A lot of times conversation gets really active, and so we don't want to cut off those last few seconds as they're wrapping up here. Okay. All right, so welcome back. I really hope that you all had great conversation with each other. I know that I was able to pop into each of the rooms and the comments were wonderful. So we'll go ahead and just start with sharing out. So the reporter from breakout room 1, let's hear what your group had to say about question number 1.
I'm going to be sharing about what breakout room 1 had to say as far as our guiding question, which was what can colleges do to help remove barriers around the college admissions and supplemental materials processes in their schools. We had a lot of feedback on if websites especially could be more clear and it'd be more easy to locate certain items that are needed for a student application, as well as what maybe still be needed as things are being supplied. some issues with like Common App being available, and then the timing of colleges with what they have available and their information being updated for the new year, and like some, calendar timing discrepancies with that, as well as clear and concise directions for upload submissions and accounting for technology limitations, as well as what students and families might not understand in terms of like education or like post-secondary jargon.
Awesome. Were there any other folks in other rooms that had some great discussion about question number 1 that wanted to share out while we're with the group? Okay. Well, if not, then
Actually, I'm sorry.
please go for it.
Actually, my group discussed that they had a lot of SEL students. And so having supplemental materials in the language, separate languages may help, because even if the child could manage with the English language, what about the parents? Were the parents able to do those things?
Oh yeah, so just accounting for students who speak various languages and the added challenge that might add to the admissions and supplemental material process. Very cool. All right, well, thank you, group 1. So reporter from breakout room 2, what did your group have to say about your question?
Hello. So our group had guiding question number 2, which is, what challenges do you face helping students with supplemental materials? And what common challenges do you guys hear from the students? And one of the things that we talked about was just basically trying to help students understand that even though they may be applying for a scholarship that is very competitive or that has a lot of people applying for it, if you give your best effort, you do still have a chance at securing that scholarship. So just letting them know that they are good enough to succeed in that area. And another thing that we touched on was, one of the things that we touched on were the resources that are available within the different high schools. Frankfurt High School in particular actually requires students to write resumes and cover letters. So just having that practice and having someone to review your resume and your cover letter just gives you the confidence to say, okay, hey, I've done it before and I've been able to work out the kinks. So when it is time for you to apply for that job, or when it is time for you to apply to that school, you're prepared for it.
Those are great points. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, I think preparing students in that way gives them, if nothing else, the practice to sort of shine, to put their best foot forward. And we talk a lot about just worthiness in general in the transition process. And so making sure that there are ways that students feel that confidence and know that they've got what it takes to make that next step is huge. So thank you for sharing that. Were there other conversations around question number 2 from other groups that you're excited to share with the rest of us?
I know a challenge that was mentioned in breakout room 1 was also that, like, especially if you're like a specific, whether you're a college coach or a counselor, having caseloads or having to serve so many students and not having that in-depth, knowledge of each and every one of them because of the amount. But when a college might require the counselor to have the letter of recommendation and that be kind of the only option, when the counselor might not know as much about the student as, say, another teacher or mentor within the school, and like expanding those options.
Oh yeah, that's great feedback, because we know that so many people in the community and people around the students pour into them, and so being able to have the option to choose the one who knows the student the best to write that letter, that's great feedback. Okay, so let's move on to breakout room number 3. So breakout room number 3, your reporter, tell us about what you all talked about with your question.
Hi, so our question was, what systems or bright spots are currently in place regarding supplemental materials? And we had a few responses. One suggested that schools actually use English classes to do this. So nice for their students, and then use those activities for grades so that they'll get a better response. Hang on, I'm gonna turn my video off so that my internet's a little slow. And then we also said that having templates ready to use so that they can just go in and use those templates to complete those documents and then submit them as soon as they're finished. So making sure that they have them ready to go. They can just grab it, and then whenever their template's finished, they can help them to develop that template into an actual document that could be turned in. So, and that was it. We had some great conversation around all the questions, though.
Thank you for sharing that out. Yes, creating a system that students can navigate easily to make that process work is awesome. You know, and using what you already have. So working with that English department and getting those essays taken care of would be huge. So thank you for sharing out. Are there any other bright spots from other breakout rooms that you all want to share? Okay, well, I really appreciate the contributions that you all made, and I hope that being able to interact with your colleagues from around the state, and in addition to getting some great information from our guest speakers, really sort of get you energized for the new year. So as we end or get near the end of our time together, I just want to briefly encourage you to stay connected with the Kentucky Advising Academy. And so our September webinar, it'll be here in no time. For that webinar, we have partnered with KIA, the Kentucky Higher Education Assistance Authority, to bring you information about the FAFSA Completion Initiative tool, which is just incredibly helpful for knowing which of your students have started and or completed a FAFSA. We all know affordability is a hot topic, and for a lot of our students, the FAFSA can be the difference. So you can scan this QR code to register for that webinar, but the link is also being dropped as well. So if you want to just use that link, you'll have that available. And then we are super excited to bring you our fall professional learning series. And so this is a multi-meeting professional learning series, and it's really tailored for school counselors, administrators, FRISC coordinators, post-secondary advisors, community partners, all of those who you feel like are a part of your post-secondary process for students. So you are all welcome. This first day of learning is going to focus on strengthening advising processes to support students with their transitions. So again, participants, you're encouraged to bring colleagues who are part of that process. There will be ELA credit available as well as FRISC training credit for this event. So you'll see the link to register in the chat as well. And hopefully you are signed up on our for our updates. And so that distribution list is also going to get links to the fall professional learning series, and you'll see the dates and the locations there. There's a clickable link on the flyer once you see that. So then, and we'll send that actually in our follow-up to you guys just for participating in our webinar today. But that way you can click on the link and you'll be able to register directly from there to the event near you. So from our website, and that's also going to be in the chat, you can subscribe to our communications, including updates about our podcasts and our webinars and our in-person events and our newsletters. So if nothing else, please take a moment to hop on to our website. It's at cpe.ky.gov/advisingky, also in the chat there. And just sign up to stay in touch with us. You can follow our social media accounts as well. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Advising KY. And we're also on YouTube, which is where we will post today's webinar for anyone who missed it live, or if you want to pass it on to someone in your building who may be able to use that information to help out. You can search for us on YouTube by typing in Kentucky Advising Academy, all spelled out. Okay, so we have reached the end of our time together. Thank you for being here. We hope that you found some information that was helpful. You can scan the Google link, or excuse me, scan the QR code, or you can go to the link that's on the slide here. It's also being dropped in the chat. But if you are needing ELA credit, that's available, and you can use those mechanisms in order to make sure that you get that. We really hope to see you in future events. We love the webinars. We love hearing from you, seeing you involved. You know, it's just nice to be able to know that we are all in this together. We have people from across the state who are dealing with similar issues, helping our students transition. So thank you for spending time with us today. And we hope that we will see you either at a future webinar or a future in-person event. And if we can do anything to help you out, just reach out to us again through our website, and also our email, which is kyadvisingacademy@ky.gov. All right, we hope that you enjoy the rest of your day and good luck as you get started for this new year. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a great year.